Hello, happy Memorial Day. It's the transition from the 27th to the 28th. And I thought I'd do a longer video of the translation of the Memorial Title of Liberty that Captain Moroni, a captain of the Navy, wrote for his people. And to understand that story, you have to remember the context. The people of Nephi spoke Egyptian. And I think I found plowshare today, which is interesting because Isaiah wrote in Paleo-Hebrew, which was very Egyptian in form. After the Babylonian exile, a group went to Egypt to hide out. The cabal, the nobles, got taken captive into Babylon. Daniel starts to speak Aramaic, and you have what we call is modern Hebrew. So this is kind of the cuneiform version of Hebrew. That's not the original Hebrew. The original Hebrew looked like Egyptian. The original Hebrew, if you look at the alphabet, if that's what this is, it's only got 22 characters, certainly missing some characters. So they project what they think the original Hebrew character was, then they try to map it to a modern Middle Egyptian hieroglyph. And you're going to notice that there's a strong match. What's interesting to me is Ma'im Mem, water, in Hebrew is the letter M, whereas in Egyptian it's the letter N. And it literally is pronounced N, and it literally means like N or of. So in memory. Now this is kind of an interesting shape. This is a scythe to harvest wheat. Normally it is benign. It's not the scimitar. There's a different symbol for the scimitar. If there's another character here, it can mean slaughter, because you could use the the scythe to kill people. So we have these birds. They're all over the place. So I'm going to kind of jump over here for a minute. So this part, when the bird is above the mouth or the eye or whatever that is, that means great. And this seems to mean God. So you're going to notice it looks like a falcon. It's on a perch, like maybe it's above heaven. Maybe this is the firmament. And it's looking down on its children. Egypt had a tie to I think it's the condor. It's a bird in our Western American culture that seems not a correct bird, but it's a nurturer. The bird's looking out for its young. So Ur means great God. So when it says Abraham came out of the land of Ur, was that meaning Abraham was a dropship? Uru represents the great chiefs of heaven, and there are 3 of them. So it seems like we have the word great. I don't know if this is a different form of the bird. This looks like a swallow to me. And then we have these 3 falcons. So it seems like the great chiefs of heaven, there are 3 of them. Uah can mean just one. Uah in Uah could mean one to another or one to one. But Uah can mean number one God. And when it means number one God, it's got this Uah component then we have a hand, we have a knot that's untied, and then this is a generic form of a god, or a king, or a pharaoh. Remember, some of the pharaohs were supposedly called gods. Uru can also mean this: the gods who lightened the darkness. And this part is Or. Remember, Kumora, the rising light. This is light. But it's more than that. It's a variation of the word. It's only found once. It's found in Psalm. And it gets translated as Or, which is very similar to Or. But I found it by actually doing a Hebrew search in the Hebrew version of this. And then I looked at this. So this might be the Urim and Thummim, the Yori part, Yorim. So here we have, again, this is the great symbol. We have a god. Now this, again, somehow freeing us, untying our cords. We're no longer in bondage. The number 3, this is a shortened form of 3, so that might represent that somehow. And then this little sideways bow tie thing means very. So not only is this so this seems to be a singular god, but then right here it makes it 3. But this means it's a very great god. Now, something that I would hypothesize, if the god has to say, I am the greatest, that doesn't mean you're the greatest. That means you're just pronouncing that you're the greatest. But the humans may say, this is the greatest god. And so, great God becomes very. This is like the word very. So, if you were to add this to this symbol, it would be the very great God. Now, when I decided on these word choices, I looked up memory. I knew what the English form of the Book of Mormon said. So N is literally like water. Remember, Egyptian water is the letter N, like Neanderthal, whereas the Hebrew M is moratorium. So look what memory, remembrance looks like. So you've got, this seems to mean something about the gods, the harvest. The knot is untied. So you are now, I don't know if this is you becoming free, but because you're free, you can now sit down and contemplate. You have free time. You can contemplate in memory. Maui has a similar meaning. It's about love. And I would say Maui, the name in Hawaii, was likely hundreds of years before this title of liberty thing. So we have to have context. Peharon is struggling with the kingmen. So we're told by Mosiah and Benjamin and all of them that when the two societies clashed is one way of saying it, or you could be politically correct and go to Ezekiel and say the branch of Judah and the branch of Joseph had to work together and become one people. There are growing pains with this. The people of Mulek are of the house of Judah. They believe they should be king. King Mosiah, King Benjamin somehow become king, and then they said, let's create the reign of the judges and get rid of kings. And then we're supposed to believe everyone is just happy with that. Of course not. The kingmen, the people of Mulek, are like, no, we're still the house of Judah. We're literally the sons of David. We should be king. What is Joseph telling us to do? Now, it's obvious why, Mosiah or Benjamin or whoever says, oh, it's because we have the records. No, that's not why. The Muleks arrived with Phoenician boats, which pretty good technology. And then finally, when the two peoples collide, the boats of Nephi are compared to the Phoenician. And then imagine what can happen if you have those two independently designed technologies coming together. You're going to get the best boats ever. The Noah. No, that would be the Nao, which likely crashed into Portugal. And, it's kind of ironic that the boats they built were the ones that would come to destroy them. But that's a different topic. The people of Nephi certainly had written language. They had the Hebrew, and they had the Paleo-Hebrew, and they had Egyptian. And I would estimate, because the people of Mulek were before the Babylonian exile, that they were in a transition because there was Babylonian influence through the marriages of Josiah. So one of his wives was from Egypt, one of them was from Assyria. Assyria appointed Necho to be the pharaoh of Egypt. Necho goes on the battlefield after Assyria has lost to fight Babylon. Right, so the north has Assyria and Babylon. Necho was appointed by the Assyrians, but now wants to go fight the Babylonians. Seems like he has the Ark of the Covenant, so Josiah goes out and meets him on the battlefield and brings the Ark of the Covenant back. And then, as I'm suggesting that this may mean Yorim, like Urim and Thummim, to cast lots means Urim and Thummim, so I'm pretty certain Nephi had the Ark of the Covenant with him. And I don't know that Moroni, Captain Moroni here, would be marching around with it. I think it was supposed to be retired. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was placed in the temple of Jehovah that builded Nephi for a time, and then it was retired furthermore. So I don't know about that data point. But the reason I'm bringing this up is Moroni is like, okay, I gotta go fight these people. We've got all of the supplies in line. We just don't have men to get over there and to operate the boats and operate the weapons. So he has to come back and he has to deal with the kingmen. He's reminding the kingmen who the founder of this nation was. Who was the one that was capable of building swords out of steel. Who the great Koresh was. So when he's going to choose a word from a phonetic point of view, he's going to focus on the alliterations of Nephu, Nephi, even Nesu. And some of these actually have multiple meanings. So some of these can also mean like soldier or military man. And so he's going to write this word probably first, really, really big. And this is saying, you need to sit down and think for a minute. So this Neph is a common symbol. It means good. So this is Nepheru. And so what I'm suggesting, and this is what the Egyptologists have. So what this is suggesting is instead of a bird above, which means great, now it's a snake above. The great seraph, the seraphim. Isaiah went into the throne room of God and a seraphim touched his lips and he became smart. And this is similar to this. It's a variation of, kind of sitting down. You kind of got one knee bent, and then you got the number 3 again, like there's some sort of trinity of the top gods, I guess. But I can just say Neph, which just means good, which is just that symbol. And then I could say Uru, and then I could go over here to these variations of Uru. And why would I do that? Why would I want to make sure that I'm emphasizing Uru? And the answer should be obvious, because if I look at a map, I have Uru, Guai. And so I'm starting to think Guai was Gur, Ya, I. Gur are the foreigners that Jehovah brought from across the waters. And Uru can mean great. They're large in stature, so maybe they're 7 foot tall and the local is 5 foot tall. So there's a reason I'm targeting Uru as a word stem here. And if you recall, at 39 degrees south, we have Uru Guayana. And so this might have been the land of Nephi's first inheritance. Then he goes to a completely different place with different people. Paraguay, fruitful. Remember, foreigners, Jehovah sent from across the sea. Fruitful. Joseph is a fruitful bough. This might have been Joseph's property. We've got the Pampas here. Someone had the Pampas. Guiara seems to be father, and Guarani seems to be the son, who we call layman. And so at some point they migrated and they built a temple on this hilltop. This is about 3,000 feet from this spot, so it's just this weird outcropping. And this is large, and I would estimate the northeast corner. So, if we did LiDAR here, we're going to find it, but I would estimate here. So this is 3,000 meters above this. The river, you always want to know where the river is, because this is how you're going to arrive. Everything's on rivers. You travel by river. Oh, so now we have Urupa. Pa means clay or bricks. And Uruewu Wau Wau means the God holiness. So remember, Au could be Ua, depending on where these are. There is not a W in Egyptian, so I've played around with this. But I believe this tribe was named because of this, the temple. This literally means holiness, holiness to God, the great, great God. So if you were to ask these Indian tribes, they would probably say, no, that's not our name, but they were named that because of the area. So now he's got this white building that shines, that everyone can see. This is 3,000 feet. You're in a river basin. You can see this for miles, and it's this bright white building. It's got white TT on the outer layer, this stucco, and they call it Etubi. And later, when they get up to Venezuela, to the movie Up, and they have these similar plateau mountains, they call them Etupi. So Etupi, I don't think I would find in an Egyptian dictionary. It probably means flat hilltop in one of these local languages. So now we have an Etupi. So the builder of the Etupi became Tupi. So we have the Tupi Guarani language. We have this Bartolomé de las Casas. He's a curator. He's getting all the stories from all the cronistas during the conquistadores, and he's collecting all these data, and he's saying that two brothers arrived by boat or boats, singular or plural, I don't remember. One is white, his name is Tupi. White can just mean he's a good guy, morally good. And Guarani was his brother and not a good guy. And they arrived by a boat. So that's why I'm saying I need to somehow map Nephi to Tupi, and I now have. Now, Tupi has a god Yah, Tupi-Yah, Tupa. The god of this land was called Tupa. And Tupa could be, this is the god Jehovah that Tupi introduced us to. So if you go back to the basic Ua ending, like Guarani, or if I go back, again, 30 degrees south on a western shore, it could have been, where am I? Could have been Esquina. Wow, I'm going to go pretty far south to get to where I need to get to. Itaqui. Itaqui means the other one. So, Uruguayina could have been the landing point. This was likely Gur. Gur means foreigner that has no rights to the land. Gar, with an A, means they have rights to a land. So when a stranger or a widow or a fatherless goes and gleans corn, they are called the Gur. The Gur, the Yah, that Jehovah brought from across the waters. This is likely how they were introducing themselves. We are these big people that are here without rights to your land, and Jehovah brought us here to help you. So whether he landed here or in Esquina, it doesn't matter. Even if he landed over here, I'm not too concerned. There's just not a lot of evidence of them not landing here based on, I've got Tupi Guarani story, I've got a language map, and I've been studying this since almost 30 years. So this is how language unlocks some of the keys to the story. So Neferu, there's lots of gods in the Hebrew or in the Egyptian. I'm specifically picking a god that would have this Neph sound. Because what you're doing is you're first writing in Egyptian to remind the kingmen, we have a language, you didn't. Number two, our boats, our steel, our swords, everything we have, our ships, came from Nephi. You had your ships, Phoenician ships, and you got to Sidon and Zarahemla, so likely you knew how to operate your ships and continue to build them. But we have the ships of all ships, the Oni Oni. So I'm intentionally using the Neph sound because Captain Moroni is sending a message to the kingmen. So in memory, sit down and think about this. Our founder was good, and he was sent by God, the number one God, Ua. So we can worship. So this is about tying a knot. This is some sort of knot connection to heaven, and then obviously you're praising God here. And in Egyptian currently it's Suash, but I think this would be Sa, which would be child or noble child. Ua can mean God, the number one God, but Ua can mean one with Shah, and I think this was Shah, and maybe Sha'ah. Now, when a child is newborn and it cries, wah. What is the first thing the mother does? The mother puts the child on the breast and says the sound, shh. Maybe that's universal, maybe it's not. But I think that's part of what religion means here. A child is one with the Queen Mother of Heaven. So the shh is certainly a feminine caretaker. And if you look at one of these birds, the vulture, I think, is the one it is. It's about caring for its young. And that's definitely a feminine trait. So religion, so religar, supposedly in Latin, means to tie again. It looks like we have a tie here. And so now look at, the word good. So this is the tha symbol. This is the number 0 at some point. It's got this tie connected to an earth or an egg or something. Okay? And so now we could have the egg and the serpent meeting, the serpent mounds, which is how a child is formed. I don't know where that goes, but what I'm saying is Sa, the children, are one with their God. And it seems to be a feminine component here. This symbol and this symbol, you can see that's like tying a knot or to join or union. This seems to be like some sort of gift from heaven, almost like a flower. And the rest of this, I don't recall at the moment. And then this is obviously praising the heavens. Nephu. And an u ending in Hebrew can mean our or we. The collective. So when I'm saying religion here, it can say our religion, our God, because we have an u ending. So this may have to be sa uashu or sha'u to be our religion. So freedom is nephu again. Look at the symbology. Freedom is about wind in your sail. Your rope is loosened. It's unbound. And then this seems to be reference to the 3 gods. So you'll see, so that's clearly the number 3. So it's like 3 of the gods seem to have untied us. And you're going to see this symbol here. The number 1 god somehow untied us. And here, remember this means very great God who untied us with the number 3. So nephu, as freedom or liberty, is that you're untied so you can go wherever the winds take you. Right? So that's a metaphor of Egypt. So nephu is freedom or liberty. Peace, this is a very important one. Ma'a koru. So this could be the O sound, and I think it is O because there was a man named Kori Hor. Kori Kor. What is up is down. The land of peace. Tied to southern Arabia, the land of bountiful, or America bountiful. And it means peace. But this one's very, very important if you understand the story. So now we have the sickle to cut wheat, or if you had another symbol here, it could be used as a scimitar. There's a different symbol for a scimitar. It could mean slaughter. This horizontal symbol represents correctness or truth. Could be how you would bear testimony. So it's kind of like saying the sickle of truth, and then this one is a little bit different. This is like a sieve over whatever this dominant shape is. So remember, we have a snake with that shape, we have this with the shape, that shape, and it means great. So this might mean the earth, and then we've got the God above the earth, so that's great. or a bird above whatever is great. A snake in Egyptian above a thing is also great. But now I've got this sieve above this thing. So I think this is a sieve symbol. But this is the most obvious way to see it. So I have something you would cut wheat with, a truth symbol. This is a hand, so whatever you can do with your arm. So what would you do with an arm with a spear that's going downward? I will fight no more forever. You're putting your spear down. That's why this means peace. So you're bearing record that you're taking your hand and you're putting your spear down. And to me, I think this has like a larger global general meaning. But to me, it's like I'm going to put the spear down and go farm. I'm not going to fight. I'm going to go farm. Now remember the plains of Jershon. I'm trying to see a map. Okay, so the plains of the Carolinas, look at that. That's 0 feet to 1,000 feet up here. The plains of Jershon. So these people wanted peace. Did they want peace after this title of liberty was turned into a banner and was hung so everyone could see in all the cities? And what's important about peace, it seems, is this constant symbol of you're untied, you're untethered. So these people made an oath, they set a truth for themselves, that they were going to take their arm and put their spear down. So you can read the Egyptian dictionary and see the subglyphs if you want. Nesu means peace. So to some degree, I think this is poetry, because the people that Moroni is talking to, they will see the symbols and they'll possibly know some of it. We don't know how literate they are. But this might be a poem. I haven't tried to get it into poem form. But I have Nefu Nesu. I have Ma'akoru, which is 4 syllables. If I went with the original, I have Mesu Seru, which is 4 syllables. So maybe I have this this poem that I don't even fully comprehend, right? And obviously with the U endings, that means our. So in our God, our religion, our freedom or liberty, our peace, our noble mothers, our noble children. And so it's interesting that Nesu is the mother and Mesu is the child. And this is why I think this is Sa, just like this is Sa, because you're talking about children. So the symbol for children is you got 3 rays from heaven coming down. You've got the Lamad, and then you have a child. Remember, Lamad means the staff or means teaching. And then the noble mother seems to be a staff with whatever that is. This is a general sign for the feminine, but this is specifically the sign for the well of the woman, the vagina. So now that's how you have a mother. So maybe the mother is growing a crop, right? Alma 32, you plant a seed in the well, and if it's a true seed, it will grow a crop. This is a longer form of that same phrase. So we've got a plant shooting out of the woman. This is a symbol that it's a woman. There's water involved. There has to be a man involved. So maybe the man is putting his water in the well. And then it's this whole symbol. So now we have specifically the well of the woman, her vagina, and we're reminding that it is a woman, and there's a woman sitting, and then the man is sitting behind her. And that could be how he's copulating with her. So this seems to be the noble mothers, the wives of the kings. So if you're creating a free society, you're saying all the mothers are noble, right? Everyone's noble. All the children are noble, all the wives are noble. And maybe there was a distinction between the tall white people and the short brown people. And if you read 3rd Nephi, when Yeshua says, bring out your records. Why didn't you write down what Samuel the Lamanite, that brown-skinned guy said? Did you forget? That there could have been a 2-class system because you were tall and white. But if you're tall and white, guess what? You go into any tribe on a proselyting journey, especially early on, the tribal father wants you to take one of his daughters and have a child with her. They want a tall white baby. But they also want to connect to you. There's a lot of positive reasons to do that. So I pointed out uwa because uwa in uwa would mean one on one or one to another. And that reminds me of some of the Mormon culture songs that we've grown up with. So this means one to another. You're just saying the same symbol twice with N in between it. Ua and wa literally means one, with one, or for one, or of one, or in one, some sort of preposition. So here's some different forms of ma'u. And you can see we've kind of got this 3-symbol light thing, which is also tied to a child. Where did my child go? So that's a 3 light thing, but it's got a circle there, which might mean it's a bigger event. So then I would imagine that you would write this really big in remembrance, and then you would do a bulleted list. And it's a banner. It's going to hang from gravity at all of the towns. It's not a flag. It's going to hang so you can easily see and read it at all times. And if you pull it tight and have a bottom plate, it could appear like a flag, but it's not going to blow too far. You might have to cut little slits to make sure the wind doesn't rip it apart. But the sounds are very important. Nef was very important. Ma'a, ma'u. There's poetry here. Because people might be semi-literate, it seems like you would want a society where people can understand. I can look at these pictures and understand. And if it's something easy to memorize, you could greet people this way, right? When you're changing the guard or you're arriving at a port with your, captain of 50 arriving at a port, and you could say to those that you just arrived at, this little phrase, right? And it's a phrase like hua, but look at hua, right? Hua is a phrase in the army. It means like semper fi, always faithful, but it's like hua. And that's about becoming one. Like hua means one. And it's kind of interesting of all the, just look at the beginning of this. This is supposed to be in memory. Look, in ma'u. In memoria. If you don't think our languages weren't derived from Egyptian, And so anyway, I think this is Koru, and this is where Korihor comes from. Alma doesn't know what to do with him. He's not Nihor, he's Korihor. He basically says, I have the right to worship whoever I want in this land. I choose to worship no one. Don't I have that right? So he was challenging the legal boundaries of the system. He was taking his case to the Supreme Court based on how the law was written. Ma'akoru literally means you make an oath, something's true to you or righteous. You take your hand and you put the spear down. Now, if you don't understand the plains of Jershan and the people that become anti-Nephi Lehi, and then they get moved away from Lamanites, people that just don't like Nephi, the people of Nephi. So Joseph Smith confounded all of that early on with the Mosiah priority, and then he comes back and writes the small plates, and that's where we then learn, oh, if you're not the people of Nephi, we just call you Lamanite. Doesn't mean you're a child of Laman. It just means you're on the not Nephi team. This is very similar to the word Goy in Hebrew. You have the nation of Jacob, and then you have everyone else. And everyone else is called Goy. I wonder if the house of Jacob would say that the children of the firstborn, Ishmael, was the same nation. So would they say their nation was at the Abraham level? I don't think so, because Abraham was supposed to be the father of many nations. His firstborn was Ishmael. So the house of Jacob is telling all these stories about how, no, they're supposedly the firstborn. Not even close. So Isaac, and then Isaac has two sons, but Jacob is not the firstborn either. It's Esau. But there's some trickery to say, oh, you don't have to be the firstborn to get the birthright, which is a double portion. And then it says Judah is a lion's whelp and somehow becomes the king line from his brothers. He's nowhere near a firstborn in any of the four wives. And he marries a Canaanite. And Tamar has to dress up like a prostitute to have a child because her son, or Judah's sons, didn't do their duties. It's very, very interesting. So, in Mau, Nefuru, Sa'usha, or Sa'ua, Sa'ua'u. I think there's a there is a shot. This is the original. Sa'uashu. In Mau Neferus Sa'uashu. So that might be Sa'ushu. Nefu, so you're kind of going back. The Nefu's right there, right? This just gets softened. If you say Nef-uru and you're lazy, it becomes Neferu. It's the same. So now I have Nefu Ma'ah. So before I had Ma'u, now I have Ma'ah Koru. So now I have Koru. This could be Soru, because you see there's a rhyme there. So obviously I have Nesu, Mesu, right? That one's... So this is my best guess of what he wrote and how it would sound. Now, could you turn this into a word flower somehow? Could you anchor and kind of make like a Scrabble thing? So we have this symbol several times. This is a symbol of freedom, right? Your cords are untied. So we have it here. We have it over here with Uru. It's not in this form of Uru, but I could take this symbol, and then I could take this I would take this form of the God who, so it says gods here are plural. I don't see plural except for the three here. The gods who lighten the darkness. Right? So this seems to be a very nice symbol. Now, would you use the bird or the snake? I would probably use the bird. But I would use this symbol because now again we have this. So if it's a word flower, this could be the center, and then you could kind of do this like tree if all of them have it. So this could be tied somehow to that, the knot, because there's clearly, this is a knot. This is almost like you're unknotted. By knot, I mean like a flaxen cord. You're unbound, you're untied. And so, can you make like a Scrabble game out of this? But this one's huge, right? This resonated with the people of Anti-Nephi-Lehi. That people of Anti-Nephi-Lehi were probably people of Mulek. So this language was new to them, this culture was new to them, but they're like, oh, okay. So they're called Lamanites, but they really picked up on this. So what does that mean? Were they like trading with the Mulekites but hadn't accepted God, so they were called Lamanites? There's a lot we don't know about the history, but what we do know, we need to start, putting the puzzle pieces together. And so today is the boundary of Memorial Day. So I thought this would be useful to, dig into and actually decouple some of these elements. You would want this to be something that everyone could see. It's poetic, it's phonetic, semi-literate people. So if you see the symbols, you can read this, right? And, what is that sail with that thing? The sail means we're free to go wherever the wind takes us. We're not tied to anything. Thanks to, it seems like the three gods. I don't know why there's three everywhere, right? So the great chiefs of heaven. So we have a number one God, but it seems like there's three gods. So you see the one great God looks the same as the other. So this could be father, mother, son, and your home, right? In Ma'u Nefuru Sa'uashu Nefu Ma'akoru Nesu Mesu Soru. That would be Soru if that's Koru. Kind of rhyme. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 24 syllables. In Ma'u. So I don't even know if that in would be necessary. It could be shorter, right? So I'm pretty sure that's Uash. I'm pretty sure the is pronounced. But over time, as people get lazy, they would drop those things. So how would you know how that would be pronounced? So this might be Soru to match Koru. So why do I think this is Koru or Kori? Because it says Korihor. And at the introduction of the dictionary, if you read the introduction, he says, I have no idea what the vowels are. I put E's there, but based on the Coptic, that could easily be an O. So he's just putting a placeholder. So is this Nosu and Nofu? Because of Nephi, I don't think it would be. I think this would be Nefuru. But it could be. Because Captain Moroni is making a point. All these swords you have are thanks to Nephi. All the boat technologies you have are thanks to Nephi. All of our strategies where we put our women in a safe zone with the young children and we go and protect the borders, that was designed by Nephi. Our entire military strategy was designed initially by Nephi. So now we encounter you, the people of Mulek, and you've had probably your wars and your whatever, you've done okay, but now you have our swords. You have our tech. And we decided that we're not having a king. So get over it, right? So this is the Peharon. Peharon I've found here in the Egyptian dictionary. It's actually a useful name. So these are cartouches. Mormon is curating the story as he's learning as much as he can about Egyptian, which has evolved 1,000 years on. But every name is kind of a story. So I'm sure people had multiple names. Just like with Nephi, I'm saying he was Tupi. He was likely a name about being a leader or a ruler. He was likely the title of Koresh, the furnace fire maker. And so he likely had all of these names. He could have been Kontiki. Or one of his sons could have been Kontiki. He could have been the original Kontiki. Kon is like this, but instead of an R, it's an N. Kon Tiki could have been Kon Titi. The one that, the chief, the captain. So Kon is like Mer. It's like the overlord or the captain of the Titit, the clay of all clays, the white clay. So his name could have been Kontiki. And if you read, some of these stories of Quechua or Tonga or whatever, their mythologies so many years on that sometimes they say a hero arrived and taught us how to do these things. You will be the ruler and teacher over these people. So I haven't looked up teacher yet. But there's a wordplay with Lamad, right? So Lamad is one of the symbols. This is the symbol for the Lamad in the early Egyptian, or in the early Hebrew. Layman, Laman, teach, teach, teach. There's a metaphor about teaching. And this is why I've concluded the small plates of Nephi, when he said these are a peculiar thing about the most spiritual things, I think he was saying our language is the most spiritual thing. It's our power. So I would classify it similar to the Noah Webster Blue Black Speller. If you could go through the book, you could understand the language. So at some point, he says, I, Nephi, so he introduces first person. He has his father speak, so he introduces second, third person. We did something, so the collective plural. So it seems like he's outlining those things, and then he's building a vocabulary list, and then he drops these anchors like Shazer, Iriantum. Iriantum is a whole field of study about how to arrive at port by boat. America, Mer, Rakam, Americam, Bountiful. Americam is about a society of government where the people have an overlord that shows tender mercies. He's a protector, etc., etc. Was Nephi not America? So I think about this like 600 BC to 550 BC would be like the Renaissance of America. You're going to an area that has low technology, lots of tribes. You're introducing the best technology of the world. And it seems like if there's a war in heaven between the gods, this is an A-B test. Okay, one god, you want to do your gold, silver, and war thing? Okay, you do that over there. I'll send Nephi over here to take all the technology but form an inverted society. So instead of it being a power-based hierarchy, it's a meritocracy-based Kori Hor. What is up is down. The leader is the servant. The leader is the protector. And then you would see, okay, after 1500 years, let's compare what we got. War in the Western world. By Western world, I mean Middle East, Rome, Britain, France. And then the real Western world, aka the New World, it's off the chain, right? When they get here, the Cronistas with the conquistadors are like, they have cities bigger than London. They have cities bigger than every city we have in Spain. And they're all organized. Everyone seems to be happy and healthy. Instead of an economy of scarcity and power and gold and silver, you put the gold in the temple, you feed everyone. So for me, these markers of 3 are also tied to the word happiness. So this is tied to the word happiness. So I think about Nephi when he says, and we lived after a manner of happiness. So what are the 3 pillars of happiness? I have food to eat and a place to stay. Maybe that's number 1. My family is safe and protected. And I have free time to learn whatever I want to learn. Right? So I'm free. So if I want to go work in clay, I go work in clay. If I want to go do this, I go do this. Right? I go do whatever I want. And certainly, there could be loafers that don't want to do anything. But really, if your entire existence has been a certain form of living, and you're not a curious cat, you're going to have more free time. May God bless and keep you. Shalom. Hasta la vista, baby.